hear us?
Sound check.
It's still loading. There's a little bit of delay
Okay.
when you go live till it actually kicks in. Apparently I'm not the only one waiting to watch this.
Okay.
It's me and the other one.
No.
I don't know if you should say anything. We all had a moment there.
We're good though.
You're good?
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And I will start out with our land acknowledgement statement. The town of Coalhurst is located on Blackfoot Confederacy territory. We honor the Blackfoot people and their traditional ways of knowing and caring for this land, as well as all Indigenous peoples who have helped shape and continue to strengthen our community. And so we'll just get started out here with the adoption of our agenda. Would somebody like to make a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Seeing none, on the question, all in favor? That's carried, thank you. And then moving on to the adoption of our previous minutes. So we have our regular meeting of council, which was held on January 17th, 2023. Can I get a motion to adopt those minutes? Go ahead.
I move to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting on January 17th, 2023.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question, all in favor? That's carried. And then our committee of the whole meeting that was on January 31st, 2023. Would somebody like to make a motion for those?
You can make that motion.
Any discussion on that? No? Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. All right, so just moving along throughout our agenda today. We don't have any citizens with us without formal notice today. So we'll move on to the business of council. So Councillor Ackerman has two items here. The first is which is a request for community safety presentation. Councillor Ackerman, I'm going to turn this over to you and you can tell us more about this.
I guess I'll just make a motion at the beginning here and then speak a little bit about it.
Sure.
And then I can restate that before we finish. So I move that the council instruct the CAO to invite the RCMP to hold a public information session in Coalhurst on the topic of actions individuals and organizations can take to create a safe community. So the background behind this is, as most of you know, there's been lots of comments on social media about the state of the community with regards to safety. And I know that it's kind of outside of what we can do as a municipality because a lot of it does fall in the RCMP. So I'd like to kind of bridge that gap and see if we can bring them here to help educate our community for ways to look after not only themselves and each other. There's been lots of reports of people checking cars in backyards, so I know that it's not an immediate fix by any means, but it's something to show that we realize that this is ongoing. We realize that this is an issue and we can try and enable some residents to have the tools to kind of combat this a little bit. So CAO was nice enough to break down kind of what the cost would be. So we were looking at costly community center rental, which would likely be waived, and staff setup time for setup and tear down, which would be approximately $300, and then advertising costs would be about $200.
Great, so Councillor Ackerman has made the motion. Is there any discussion on this item? Go ahead, of course.
If I could, please. In the body of the rationale, I was wondering if you might be able to remove one of those statements in there prior to going into our package or into our minutes. And that is, after resident safety, could we just put a period and then carry on this as we're receiving reports of people checking cars in backyards?
Sure.
If we don't know that, that's a bit of an inflammatory statement.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say I support this motion and I wanted to thank you for bringing it forward as indicated in the motion, as well as in our strat plan and priorities for the next few years. It's prudent to focus on community safety, and I can't stress how important it is for concerned citizens and residents to get involved with the RCMP and the community. What we do as council is important in terms of advocating to the RCMP and to the levels of governments for an increased police presence. But I believe that it's equally important for residents to pay attention to what's happening in the community and can only meet with the RCMP and share those concerns. especially when it comes to the safety of properties, families, and the well-being of Coalhurst. So I would love to see this happen, and thank you for bringing it forward.
Thanks. Go ahead.
If I might ask, what is the intended timeline on this? The spring type thing? Or as soon as possible, or?
I'm not exactly sure. I think as soon as feasible, with kind of the social media posts being a little bit more prevalent lately. I think if we can do this sooner than later, it can catch everyone before the summertime. Kind of depending on availability and if this is possible through RCMP.
And I know that for myself, this is something that we had talked about a couple of different times. We had Staff Sergeant Newman here about looking at doing this for our community. So I'm really excited to see this coming forward, and I think that this could be really good for our community to see come forward. So if there is no further discussion, I'll call the question. We're all in favor. Go ahead.
Do you want me to repeat the
Sure,
motion?
go ahead. Please do.
I move that the council instruct the CAO to invite the RCMP to hold a public information session in Coalhurst on the topic of actions individuals and organizations can take to create a safe community.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. And then, Councillor Ackerman, so you do have another one here. So this is regarding the request for information on the RCMP capture program. So again, I will turn this over to you.
Again, I'll start with the motion and then just kind of dig into it a little bit. So I move that council instruct the CAO to investigate establishing a capture program in Coalhurst with consideration for involving neighboring municipalities in the project. This aligns with our strategic plan for maintaining a safe community under Pillar D, which is the D, cultural and social connections. As stated, kind of the rationale. There's other municipalities in Alberta that run an RCMP program called CAPTURE, which stands for Community Assisted Policing through the use of recorded evidence. The idea of this is to create a directory of cameras, such as doorbells and external cameras, throughout Coalhurst that can help the RCMP solve a crime if there's any issues that come up. If a crime is reported, an officer would access the capture registry to see if there's any cameras in the immediate area that may have captured the incident. If so, the RCMP would contact that individual or business and ask if they would volunteer to share their footage. This is a voluntary program where residents sign up to participate, and everyone has the option of providing or not providing recorded information. The database only identifies the contact information of the camera owner. The RCMP cannot gain access to the cameras. Given the experience in other Alberta municipalities such as Red Deer, Foothills County, and Sylvan Lake, this is a positive tool and a simple proactive action residents can take to support local crime suppression. Just wanted to add to, I know that some people might be hesitant to provide that information to the RCMP, but from my understanding is it's on a per incident basis. So if something does happen, the RCMP would contact the individual, and then at the time they would have the choice to either provide it or not provide it, and they wouldn't be obligated to if they didn't want to. I guess the cost for this, I'm not entirely certain right now, so I think it would just be time to research, assemble, and return information to council at this point in time. And then there was the Slave Lake FAQ, which was attached. I won't dig into that, but that kind of gives a little bit of a breakdown of some of the common questions for that. I think, again, this is another item that could, help police in some situations in town that are arising where there are people checking a lot of vehicles or whatnot. I think that once it would be set up, it would be beneficial to the community. I had spoken to somebody that is in the Foothills Capture program, and they said that their community really enjoys it. And they like the fact that it helps them feel a little bit safer because they know if something is going on, people have access to those cameras possibly before they delete the information if it's on a certain timeline.
Thank you for that. So now we'll open it up. Any discussion on this item? Go ahead.
Just to say thank you for bringing that forward. I wasn't aware of this kind of program, and so I think that will be great for our community. In your telephone conversations, was there any indication of the success of this program in other communities, or sort of the uptake?
I'm not sure of a quantifiable answer to that. I know that they said that the residents did feel better with the program in place, so I would take that as a win, regardless of if it helped one or if it helped 10.
Absolutely, thank you.
Other discussion? If there's none, Councillor Ackerman, maybe I'll just get you to read your motion again.
Sure. I move that council instruct the CAO to investigate establishing a capture program in Coalhurst with consideration for involving neighboring municipalities in the project.
Great. Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. So moving down now, we'll go to council reports, and we'll just go down the line. Did you want me to start with Councillor Ackerman's?
Sure.
I was looking this way, I thought maybe I better go.
That's all right.
He's always ready.
So I actually wrote notes because I usually feel like I can say something. So the first thing that I had was policy bylaw committee on February 23rd. Councillor Florence and I swapped chairs, so she's now chairing that for this year until we search again. We discussed the remuneration policy, community standards, and animal control. We had the direct coordinator of legislative services, Betteridge, join us, and I'm excited to have her expertise going forward within that committee and with council as a whole. Another thing that came up was the Invest Alberta trip on July 26th. So there was about 26 of us that hopped on a bus to Calgary to meet up with Invest Alberta. We had a presentation about how they operate and how they're trying to bring investment into the province. We had a bit of a roundtable to bring awareness to different communities in the region. So I made sure to put Coalhurst on their map for, being willing to help out. One thing that they had mentioned is they often do a welcome pack to some of the investors and have local or homemade items made in Alberta in there. So if there's anyone in the community, maybe we can reach out and see if we can get some stuff made from Coalhurst to put into those packages if there's any sort of uptick, or if anyone knows, we can always reach out about that. And then afterwards, we had a bit of an informal mixer after the presentation with other key holders in different positions. Some are from Calgary Investment and Tourism Groups. Prairie's Economic Development Canada was there, along with other members of Invest Alberta that were at the presentation. I thought it was a great chance to showcase our community and to make some valuable connections that might help with future endeavors. So one of the things that they did talk about during that presentation was they have community portals where you can upload your community information, right? So they can match investment with investment opportunities. That kind of goes down to one of the other things that I'm going to be speaking about, which is the Southborough executive meeting that I had on January 30th. So we're, I guess, just to lead into that, one of the goals for the year, we have a very informal kind of plan set up. At the moment, we still have to review that and bring it before the board, but one of the goals that they have is to have Southborough help every municipality that's a member of Southborough get all their information into that portal for Invest Alberta. So I think that that's something that's good news for Coalhurst, because they should be able to help us get in front of the people that might be looking to come here. Also in the Southborough executive meeting, we were talking about new developments in the region. We're also exploring options to get Lethbridge back as a member, because they had actually left this year. And then I guess other news, they're looking at funding 2 full-time employees to tackle the workload for the upcoming year, because they've been, I think, hitting the ball out of the park with some of their projects. So they've got a lot of work and little manpower, so they're kind of working at that. And then another thing that they're making grounds on is they got a solar power project that they're looking to do to kind of become self-sufficient for funding. So that is partnered with the county, and I think that's what we hit pretty well. There is an economic summit scheduled for March in Lethbridge, and they should have some pretty good speakers there. I'm sure more information will come up at that time. And then with regards to community engagement, I had chatted with Jackie at FCSS. I'm probably going to be attending the Move It session next Wednesday for a short period of time. If we have any sort of information, she'd be happy to forward that on to parents that are attending. She said likely if we came about once a month between cover one and cycle that through, that would probably be sufficient. If it's too much, we can tone it back, or if they want more, we can kind of adjust it accordingly. So she said Move It likely has more kids active there, so you get more parents, and the kids are more active than the stay and play, so you have a better chance to chat with the parents while the kids are kind of preoccupied. So what we were thinking was possibly having, say, like the first Wednesday of the month, somebody from council would come through there. I had tried contacting the fire department. I've left a few voicemails, but I haven't heard back yet, so I'll keep on that. And then I guess for future events that are coming up through Southborough too, there's a Community Energy Forum, February 23rd in Clare's home, and that's supposed to be informative and engaging full-day event to discuss the future of Alberta's electrical grid and opportunities for energy. So I know that was a little long-winded, but that's all I got for today.
That was a lot, so that's excellent. You've been doing a lot of different things, that's awesome.
Your worship, if members of council have things like that written down, if they could please email Ms. Betteridge, that would be appreciated, so we can capture these things. Thank you.
All right, Councilor Flores.
Oh, thank you. So I think Scott covered everything from policy bylaw, very good. So that's awesome, I'll skip over that part. But I did want to share, as part of our council communication strategy, I met with the County of Lethbridge Community Learning Council on, and the 55 Plus Club. So from the County of Lethbridge, I'm just gonna call it the CLCC, I keep getting confused. We met on January 24th, so a few nuggets. So you guys all have these on your desks. But as you know, the purpose of the council is to provide community adult learning opportunities. So they work with individuals to help them with basic computer skills, class 7 license prep, basic work skills, and then all the school things like math, reading, and writing. And Roxanne and Melanie are two of the staff in the office, so it's great to sit down with them again and learn about some current initiatives that they're working on. I shared the strat plan and a bit of what's happening in Coalhurst these days with them, and then they were able to share with me what the organization can do in Coalhurst in regards to programs and classes offered by the council, and of course with it being a bit more operational, put them in touch with the CAO. Hopefully that will happen. We talked about ways council could keep engaging with the council and what that would look like. So one of the suggestions from them was to attend a board meeting, or even like a member of council, or even have somebody from Coalhurst sit on the board. The other suggestion was to have Melanie come do a presentation for council at a committee of the whole meeting, and to talk about all the amazing programs offered and how they are reaching folks within their mandate. Another thing that I thought was really interesting is they tend to work with newcomers to Canada and to Alberta. So people who identify as LGM or recent immigrants are often the folks that are served. So it led to an interesting conversation about having a presentation from AHS for service providers and upper management about how to steward services in your community that are tailored to newcomers. So I would have to get the specifics again from them because I forgot to write that bit down, but I would be very interested in maybe setting something like that up. Yeah, so that was that meeting. And then on January 25th, I had the pleasure of meeting with the 55 Plus Club Society. And it was amazing to meet with them. They're engaged, they're paying attention, they're listening, and they're incredibly spunky. It was really fun and enlightening to go chat with them and to share the strat plan and to listen to their thoughts on it. And I have to give a shout out to a few members who definitely held my feet to the fire a little bit, but I appreciate the conversations and the accountability. So just sharing a little bit more. As we went through the pillars and we're talking about it, it did get a little bit operational, but it was some great conversations. And there's some real concerns about just like transportation, housing, wraparound services, Meals on Wheels, doctor's appointments, access to things like that. It was especially interesting to be talking back to this group about transportation because a few years back I was the one stewarding that conversation around busing in Coalhurst and meeting with them to get the feedback and doing the then survey. And I think the concerns from them haven't changed much over the years. The seniors are very worried about transportation needs and being able to access services in Lethbridge and other areas. We also discussed housing and the need to age in place, and we had some very genuine conversation on the subject. And of course referenced, dear friends Beth and Bob, who had to move to Lethbridge when their hearts are in Coalhurst. So I reassured the group that this is on the forefront of our priorities and on our strategic plan. I did want to share another topic that came up and we discussed at length, and is seemingly affecting folks' quality of life a little bit, and that is the noise from the train. I promised them I would bring it up here, and I also let them know that our intern CAO is also infatuated with the trains and has been keeping an eye on the length of time on the tracks. So several members indicated that they were having trouble sleeping at night. It was causing their houses to shake. So I did just want to share that today, so we can pass it along and be aware when we have our circle of influence and we're talking with CP or whomever. It was interesting. We talked about a museum or some sort of preservation of history in Coalhurst. And while that was interesting, I wanted to share it here that I kind of put it back on them a little bit with that project. If people are seeing a gap, that we need folks to step up and see if there's anything to do to fill that gap. And I think that the folks who know the history, there would be nobody better to start this than the 55 Plus Club, a well-established society to take on a museum project. And with, of course, the town supporting it, however. But it was just an interesting conversation about like, well, we need to do this. And it was like, well, who should do it? That kind of thing, right? So anyway. So in regards to ongoing communication, And so that was when we were talking about the strat plan and where they fit in. That's kind of what led to it. So many rabbit trails. It's led by me. I love going down rabbit trails. So in regards to the ongoing communication with the group and how they would like to see that happening in the future, what I heard from around the table is that they did enjoy the back and forth communication rather than coming to council to present. And they would be interested in meeting with us, maybe not monthly, but like quarterly. And then when we meet with them, if we could please bring updates back to them on what is happening with the strat plan and what is all being accomplished and report back to them. And this is what I mean kind of about holding our feet to the fire and having that bit of accountability. And I think it's really great that they're asking for that, and they've requested updates on how we are accomplishing our goals and priorities and how that's playing out in town. So it was a very interesting conversation to have. So that was it for that meeting. And then lastly, I wanted to share about the PAL celebration. So last council meeting, I put forward a motion to support the PAL 25-year celebration with treats and having a member present at the event. I was very pleased to have council support on that motion and was able to attend the celebration on January 26th and bring greetings on behalf of council. It was an incredibly special event to be a part of, and I think it really speaks to our strat priority of increasing community engagement. Yeah, I even got to read I'm a Bad Seed to a wonderful class of students, so it was very cool. And then one of my dear friends, Ted Likuski, who was the vice principal of CES for many years ago, was there. And it was good to visit with honored guests and to see the teachers that were really involved in it. It was just really cool. So I love that January started off with a bang, and I'm pleased to see the work that the town is accomplishing. And that's it for my report.
Great, thank you. Yes.
I don't want to interject, your worship, between each of them, but thank you, Councillor Florence, for bringing that forward about the trains. If I could just ask that next time you or any member of council speaking with citizens, if they report the noise, have them email the office, and if they could have at least the day and an approximate time, we don't all look at our watches when there's noise occurring. I can actually report that back to CP. They do keep a good record of what they're doing and the activity they have going on in their yards at all times. So if there's something particular that's happening, maybe that's a conversation we can have directly with them.
Yeah.
But I need to have a little more details.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor Poitry.
Sure, I haven't been nearly as busy as this. I've been very busy in my day though. So my report will be short. The one meeting I did attend was the Recreational Culture Committee, which we had a meeting on January 30th with myself. And which was really a great meeting. We had a new member join, of course, Sienna, and then the Parks and Recreation Society ended up switching out one of their members as well to Janae in place of Aaron. So we had kind of a bit of a couple of people there, and then we were really focused on that meeting at reviewing the policy and the terms of the committee, looking at it from a different light in terms of not so focused on operational matters, but more of a governance role. And so we made a few significant revisions, I guess, which I will come through administration at some point for you guys to consider and review, if those seem to align with our strategic plan. So we're excited to see those coming through eventually. We did suggest bringing a few more people to the table. One of them was FCSS, which I believe administration's already been working with FCSS on that. And then more looking at representing all the groups in Coalhurst, so including the seniors, and of course we already have Chris on that committee who's part of that, and then but he's also the fire department, so we're trying to get everybody represented on this recreation and culture committee. So that was a really good way to start the year, I think, especially considering what the CEO has on his report about the new position that we're looking to fulfill. I did also get some information from Orsk recently on the upcoming CPAA conference, which is in May. And I can send this to all of you. I'll send this document to all of you, but I just wanted to mention it here in a meeting that it's in Niski, which is kind of far. it's in near Edmonton, right? But this conference does sponsor the ORSC executive to attend with hotels at cost for registration. So but any council can attend it, any councillor can attend or planning member. So it's kind of directed to that target audience. And, some of the topics that are included in there are like, the new way forward and convergence of planning and economic development. And so that seemed pretty timely considering our consideration of this new ASP coming forward. And then there's another one, spend money to make more money, building your municipal tax base via area structure plans. So another one that seemed kind of really interesting. Some of these other ones maybe aren't quite as applicable into our current scenario, but this seems like good information. So I'll send this to everybody and we can consider potentially sending someone to this, but it's kind of midweek, so you probably have to take some time off if you did want to attend. But that is all for my motion.
Great, thank you. Councillor Caldwell.
Mine's going to be short and sweet. Deputy Mayor Porcher, you spoke very well about our creation culture and meeting. In essence, I think the entire meeting was about updating our terms of reference. So there wasn't any other tidbits to carry forward. Had that information been sent forward to you?
Not yet. It's,
Okay.
I'm sure, forthcoming.
Okay. And I'm curious, had you received the updated members that was brought forward by Parks and Rec as well?
I believe Ms. Karsten actually advised me by email that there was that change. I didn't know if the individual had attended that meeting, so based on the report I'm hearing, I'll make sure that that's noted.
Thank you. Does council want to do anything to, based on our terms of reference, are we to elect someone to that?
I believe the term said it was appointed by
Or was
the
it-
Parks and Recreation Society, I believe, so it's just a notification to the town.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So for myself, besides the recreation culture, I also attended a Zoom meeting with Jeremy Nixon this morning with the Green Acres Foundation. And we were looking at, and he is currently the Minister of Seniors and Social Services. And is it seniors housing, social services? It's quite a long title he has there. But it was a very successful meeting. We have been advocating strongly for a number of years to look at updating PW Lodge in Picture View. It's quite outdated and it represents a bit of a risk to the seniors that are living in there. And so as they require more mobility aids, they need to move into the city, which is just not, it's not the mandate of the current government. They have set up some sort of primary requirements, so we hope it will fit within that. Essentially that was it. Those were the meetings. I wasn't too terribly busy. I will report further on our the council communication strategy once I've had a chance to meet with CES.
Great, thank you. My report is quite short this time as well. So I did have our Barron's Eureka Warner FCSS meeting last week. And at that meeting, we did talk about going into doing some strategic planning this spring. So we will embark upon that. I think it's being set up at, what was the place that we were supposed to go to that we didn't go to?
Picture View?
Yeah. Whatever that place is called, I can't remember right now.
Coyote Flats?
Yeah.
Coyote Flats, but the real Coyote Flats,
Not
not the Coyote Flats boardroom. So I think we're gonna go up there and do that. So that should be fun. And also we are arranging an all councils meeting so that all the councils are invited to actually come and attend and learn more about FCSS. I think that there's going to be a dinner and some stuff like that. I'm sorry I didn't write down the date, but as soon as I get that information, I will send that out to you. I believe that it's in April. So it's in March or April, so we'll make sure that you do have the information as to when that comes out. So it will be hosted at in Coalhurst, And so to give us a chance to check out the new Civic Square, is that what they call it?
Yeah, Civic Square.
Yeah, so it'll be over there, so that'll be great. And then the other meeting that I had was just was the regular mayors and reeves meeting that I attended this past week as well. So not as much as everybody else has going on at this point in time, but it's great to hear all of the things that everybody is doing. If there's nothing else on this item, we will then move on to the administrative report, with the first one and the only one being the Chief Administrative Officer report. So I am going to turn that over to our CAO and let you kind of tell us whatever you'd like to tell us, and then we might ask you some questions.
Thank you, Mayor Montina, members of council. Report is in front of you. I'll certainly take questions if anybody has any questions from any items there or anything else that may have come to mind.
I actually did have a question that came forward to me regarding the peace officer appointment. And this was something that I believe that you had indicated that you were working on, was more on the on-call component for the weekends. I just had a resident ask, what are they to do on the weekends? Are they to call the same phone number, or what are we doing currently with that?
Currently, thank you, Mayor Martina. Currently, what people need to do is just phone the number. If it's a significant matter, so usually around animal control of some sort, those are the ones that require calls. Our CPO will either attend himself, or we do have an agreement with and I can never remember their name. It's a great CPO agency out of Raymond. They actually provide service down there. I apologize for not knowing their name on the tip of my tongue. We do have an MOU with them. We haven't actually worked out a new service agreement though in terms of cost of call out. But that agency is in place that if we need to, they can send somebody out. Part of the process is going to need to be an evaluation in terms of when to call, what is the issue, what's the nature of the call. So at the moment, people can phone the bylaw enforcement number. What we're doing in working with this other agency is trying to find ways of providing that weekend or holiday coverage. The other option is to be moving John's schedule, and we're looking at that as well a little bit further down the road in terms of maybe he works Tuesday through Saturday or works a Wednesday through Sunday, something like that.
That's great. I've had really, really great feedback on your reports that you're putting into the town news, and people feeling like that they have a lot of information in terms of these current issues that are coming up. So I think that thank you for that. I think that's really, really great. Go ahead.
I just had a question. With the mention of the development officer working on that anyway. I know myself and Heather haven't had any MSD meetings. Was there, I guess there's no activity and requirement for that in January, I guess, was there? So.
No, there was none. Actually, you will be possibly having an MSBA meeting in March. There has been a file regarding solar panels that I believe is going to be coming to MSDA. But you will get a call. Diane is still organizing that through ORSC. We recognize and respect the work that ORSC is doing to cover us in the meantime. Ashley has been doing phenomenal front desk service as well in terms of generating permits, answering questions. So she's been covering tremendously as well. She slides documents in front of me and I sign, which is a beautiful way to do it. But until we have a development officer in place, everything is still going to come through ORSC. It has just been a little quieter up there. People are actually coming in and applying for permits. They're doing the things they're supposed to be doing by the bylaws. So.
And then I noticed the mention of cootie kickers. It reminded me another thing we talked about at our meeting with Rec and Culture was that I guess there was a disc golf tournament that wanted to even start earlier than April apparently. So, but they do not need fields cleared for.
We have had requests for access to the fields April 22nd, the weekend of April 22nd, coming from Parks and Rec for a disc golf tournament.
Yeah.
I hope I haven't spoiled the surprise for the community by saying it's coming. The fields, what's been requested in the use of the fields is different than soccer. So everything should be ready from indications we've had in conversation with them. Even if it's snowing, they'll be out there playing. So it's less maintenance intensive versus soccer, and definitely staff will be able to accommodate that. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to talk about the staffing things on here because and this is your report will be shared again with the community, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. No, I just wanted to thank you, just to extend congratulations to John on his appointment as CPO officer. And I think that second day that he was appointed, I seen him, and I was just like in my van clapping. So it was very cool to see that. And of course, having that permanent peace officer is part of our strap plan and our goal of creating and maintaining a safe community. And then I also I wanted to talk about Carlene also, because I think it's amazing that she's here and providing these great services for us. Again, as part of our goals of increased transparency. And I think that we hit a gold mine. And so I just can't wait to see what's going to happen. It's going to be great. Lastly, I did have one question for me through the mayor to the CAO. Just about the apprehensive, oh my goodness, sorry, I'm having a day. The dogs that were surrendered?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we met with policy bylaw around animal control, it was kind of indicated that we wouldn't be caring for animals for long periods. And so I guess that I understand that the shelters are full, but we're entering into like increasingly tough times for people, right? So I actually feel like this might be something that's going to be happening more, or it has potential to happen more. And I would like us to have a solution in place to be able to deal with abandoned animals. So I guess my question is can we refer this or discuss this at policy bylaw for further recommendations, or how do we deal with that?
Through Mayor Mantina to Councillor Florence, yes, absolutely. As I mentioned to you and Councillor Ackerman's, that agenda will be going up tomorrow.
Okay.
So I can certainly add that as an item.
Okay.
In response to that, this is different in that these are dogs that have been surrendered. Normally there's a dog wandering loose that's been captured, and within 24 hours, provided they have a tag, we can find their owner and return them. It's 26 hours if they don't have a tag, because everybody in the community knows where everybody's dog is, and that's actually a real benefit. This is unusual in the sense that the moment that they were surrendered, we were in touch with all of the local adoption agencies. In fact, John went as far as Pincher Creek and was looking a little further east as well, trying to find anybody that would be able to provide a rescue. We have managed to foster out one of the dogs, at least in a short-term capacity, and we're providing the service as best we can. Unfortunately, a third dog from the same group was surrendered following this going out. So we currently have two in the kennel, but they are actually related, so we can create one big kennel, which is really nice and for the socialization and whatnot. And we are trying to find placement. However, we have processes we need to follow. These do belong to somebody else, and we can't just confiscate somebody's property. So we have to follow a legislative process. So an unusual circumstance in the sense of being surrendered, normally it's a very quick turnover. So we can certainly talk about this further on.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
If not, can I get a motion to accept the report? Make the motion. You go ahead. Just state the motion.
I will make a motion to accept the CAO report.
Excellent. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call question. All in favor? That's carried. So then if we move down to correspondence, you will see that we did receive one piece of correspondence from Mayor Brian Holden from the town of Coalhurst. And this is just a letter regarding, it was to Minister Coffey regarding the state of ambulance service. So I do believe that there has been a couple of these letters that have been being generated lately. And if anyone has any thoughts on this or would like to speak to it, I will give you this moment in time. Otherwise, I just request a motion to accept the correspondence.
I'll make the motion to accept the correspondence as presented for information.
Great, thank you. Discussion? None, we'll call question. All in favor? That's carried. So now we're going to move into our closed session. So can I get a motion to go into closed session at 6:40 p.m.?
I move that we go to closed session at 6:40 p.m.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried.
Sound check? Good?
Okay. All right, so can I get a motion to move into public session at 7:13, please?
I'll make that motion. I move that we return to public session at 7:13 PM.
Great, any discussion? We'll call question, all in favor? Carried, thank you. And then Council Bonus, we need to make the motion.
Yes, so I move that council direct that the closed session discussions with respect to land matters, section 24(1) of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and to CAO hiring process, section 19(1) of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, remain confidential pursuant to, remain confidential pursuant to the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act.
Excellent, thank you. Any discussion? None, we'll call question, all in favor? That's carried. And then can I get a motion to adjourn at 7:14, please?
I move that we adjourn at 7:14.
Any discussion? None, we'll call question, all in favor? That's carried.